Welcome, everyone. Major news breaking this weekend, Letitia James could be facing indictment as early as this week. I don't usually hop on during the weekend, but this story is moving fast. Guest, can you walk us through what's actually happening with the New York AG?
Absolutely. Letitia James, New York's Attorney General, is now under federal investigation for alleged mortgage fraud, the same type of crime she accused Donald Trump of. The grand jury has reportedly issued subpoenas, and legal experts say an indictment could drop any day now.
It's wild, isn't it? The irony is almost poetic. She prosecuted Trump for inflating Mar-a-Lago's value on a private mortgage, and now she's accused of fudging her own federal loan documents. What's the core accusation against her?
The main allegation is she claimed Virginia residency on a federal loan application to score a better mortgage rate, even though she was living and serving in New York. That's a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1014 false statements to obtain a federally insured loan. Penalty? Up to 30 years in prison.
Let's unpack that for listeners. Mortgage fraud might sound like a paperwork snafu, but it's serious. Can you break down why the feds take this so seriously?
Sure thing. When you lie on a federally backed mortgage like FHA loans, you're essentially defrauding taxpayers since these loans are insured by the government. It's not just a clerical error, it undermines the integrity of the entire housing market.
Right, and studies show mortgage fraud cost the U.S. economy over $1 billion in 2022 alone. Plus, the law doesn't care if you're a politician or a plumber lying to get lower rates is a federal crime for everyone.
Exactly. If you or I tried to claim we live somewhere just to get a better loan, we'd be in handcuffs before the ink dried. Letitia James's defense that it's a clerical issue doesn't fly, especially since she's a lawyer and should know better.
Let's talk about the double standard here. James went after Trump for allegedly inflating property values, yet she's accused of manipulating her own real estate info. How are critics framing this?
It's being called breathtaking hypocrisy. Elise Stefanik put it bluntly, James is accused of the same crime she prosecuted Trump for. Voters and media outlets are calling it a Shakespearean reversal, where the hunter becomes the hunted.
And that's not lost on New Yorkers. The City Journal and even liberal outlets are starting to question her ethics. It's like watching a Greek tragedy unfold in real time.
Absolutely. The narrative is, no one is above the law, but when the enforcer allegedly breaks the same rules, it shatters public trust in our institutions.
So, what happens if these charges stick? Is Letitia James really looking at decades behind bars? Or is this more likely to end in a slap on the wrist?
Well, the statute carries up to 30 years, but first time, nonviolent offenders rarely get the max. Still, even a conviction would likely end her political career disbarment, loss of office, and total reputational collapse.
And the optics are brutal. Using taxpayer money to defend herself in court? That's a tough sell, especially when New York's voters are already souring on her.
Exactly. Her poll numbers are tanking. If she's indicted, expect calls for resignation from both sides of the aisle. And if convicted, she could become the highest-ranking state official taken down for mortgage fraud.
Let's pivot to public opinion. Latest polls suggest James is underwater, with a 60-40 unfavorable rating. Why is she losing support so rapidly, even among Democrats?
It's a mix of the scandal itself and her policy positions. On key issues like immigration, she's out of step with most New Yorkers 79% favor deporting convicted criminals, which she opposes. Even liberal icons like Whoopi Goldberg say enough is enough.
And it's not just immigration. Voters are frustrated with her using public funds for her legal battles. At a time when trust in government is already low, this feels like salt in the wound.
Right. Siena College's research found her unfavorable split is worse than any recent NYAG. If an election were held today, she'd be out on her ear.
Speaking of immigration, a major Supreme Court decision just landed, rolling back Biden's parole program for migrants. That's a huge win for the Trump camp. Can you walk us through what this means for sanctuary cities like New York?
Sure. The ruling lets the federal government deny funds to sanctuary cities that defy ICE and authorizes deportation of up to 30 people a day. New York and other blue strongholds are in panic, facing both funding cuts and a political backlash.
That's seismic. And Letitia James is among the AGs suing the feds over these policies, right as her own legal woes mount. Talk about bad timing.
No doubt. It's a 1-2 punch. Legal jeopardy at home and a losing battle in federal courts. The city's mayor is even clashing with her over compliance, showing the divisions inside the Democratic Party on immigration.
Let's zoom out. With Biden's health visibly declining, there's growing talk about who's really pulling the strings in the White House. Josh Hawley claims there's a scandal bigger than Watergate. What do we know?
Recent whistleblower accounts suggest Biden was so impaired, Secret Service had to guide him out of closets. Meanwhile, executive orders and pardons were allegedly signed via autopin. Critics say this calls the legitimacy of major policy moves into question.
And if true, that's a constitutional nightmare. We've never seen a president so shielded by staff, with the press accused of covering up his decline until after the election.
Exactly. Laura Trump recently argued that had Trump not won, Biden's cognitive issues might never have come to light. The media's role in shaping or obscuring the narrative is under scrutiny like never before.
Speaking of the media, even liberal outlets like New York Magazine are turning on Letitia James, calling out her weaponization of power. How significant is it when legacy media shifts its tone?
It's huge. When the left-leaning press starts echoing right-wing critiques, you know a politician's in deep trouble. The New York Times and others are openly questioning her ethics and even the use of taxpayer funds for personal legal defense.
And let's not forget their Russiagate reporting. Elon Musk joked about the Times Pulitzer, hinting at a lawsuit. The media's credibility is on the line, and audiences are flocking to independent voices in droves.
Right. Your podcast hitting the top 100 is part of that trend. Americans are hungry for analysis that isn't filtered through partisan blinders, especially on stories like this.
Now, let's lighten it up with a little Beltway gossip. Elon Musk left the administration, and the left is doing victory laps plus. There's the infamous black eye. What's the story there?
Musk joked that his young son, X, gave him the shiner during some horseplay. He's been roasting the New York Times for their reporting on him, even hinting at legal action over past stories. Meanwhile, Democrats like Jasmine Crockett are still worried he'll linger as a political force.
And we saw some world leader marital drama with France's first couple. Trump offered advice to Macron to keep the plane door shut. Never a dull moment.
That's DC for you, one part Shakespeare, one part Saturday Night Live. Musk may be out officially, but don't count him out of the headlines just yet.
So, with Letitia James's indictment looming, Biden's leadership under fire, and the Supreme Court reshaping immigration, where does this leave us heading into the next election cycle?
We're entering an era where accountability is front and center on both sides. Voters are demanding transparency, the courts are asserting themselves, and the media is facing a reckoning. The pendulum's swinging, and no one in power is immune.
Well said. It's going to be a wild ride. Folks, thanks for tuning in, subscribing, and pushing us up the charts. We'll keep bringing you the truth, the banter, and all the breaking details. See you next time!
Thanks for having me always, a pleasure dissecting the madness. Stay tuned, everyone. The next chapter is just beginning.